You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 148. How do I accept my breakup? Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, Breakup Coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, my beautiful brave hearts. I love you all so much. So today is an episode that is really a long time coming. We are talking about acceptance and how do we accept our breakup? How do we create and cultivate acceptance in this situation that is very much less than what you probably were ever hoping for? Now, I did an episode a while back called How to Argue for Reality, and that is episode number 67, and we talk a lot about accepting of your reality and things like that. However, I want to touch base on acceptance and almost do like a mini lesson around this topic specifically because I have been coaching on it a lot inside of the Get Over Your Ex program. Now, I've had so many brave hearts with all kinds of different breakup stories, right? All different situations, all different places around the world, situations that are really devastating and heartbreaking. Like the stories, you guys, that I have, juicy AF, the craziest stories, right? Exes getting married to previous exes of yours. You know, the standard ex dating your best friend, exes leaving their partners before, during, or after a baby's born, affairs inside out and backwards. I've helped with all kinds of, cheating scenarios. Maybe you had the affair and you're still married, trying to heal from an ex that is hidden, which is really difficult. Or maybe you were the person who was cheated on and you feel like, he chose her over you. Just exes doing crazy shit. Humans doing things that they wish they wouldn't have. And we do things we wish we wouldn't have. This is just the reality of the situation. Now, accepting reality is not a new concept. I'm sure that if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably sought out different podcasts and maybe you've read a lot of things. You've probably heard at one point in your life that we've got to learn how to accept our current reality. So I'm sure you've heard it, right? The most famous human beings talk about acceptance, especially those who also talk about presence and being and accepting what is and all of this stuff. One of my favorites is Byron Katie. She has so much content and literature out there around this topic. One of my favorite quotes that she has is, "When you become a lover of what is, the war is over." And another one that she says is, "Life is simple. Everything happens for you, not to you. Everything happens at exactly the right moment, neither too soon nor too late. You don't have to like it. It's just easier if you do." How powerful is that? You don't have to like it, but it is easier if you do. It's the whole premise really around this podcast, right? Of learning how your breakup has happened for you and not to you. And if you're new here, welcome. I highly suggest listening to episodes 1 through 5 first. But if this is your first episode and you want to dive in here, totally fine. We're going to talk a lot about how things are happening for you. Thoughts create feelings, all of this beautiful goodness. So Byron Katie is one of them that I love. Another one is Eckhart Tolle. So he says, accept, then act. Whatever the present moment contains, accept it as if you had chosen it. Always work with it, not against it. Isn't it crazy to think about how different your breakup or your divorce might be if that was the case, if you were working with the breakup, not against it? So crazy. Another beautiful, wonderful human being that I love who talks about acceptance is Deepak Chopra. I should know how to say that, so I apologize. But Deepak, love his work. So what he says is, when you struggle against this moment, you're actually struggling against the entire universe. Instead, you can make the decision that today you will not struggle against the whole universe by struggling against this moment. This means that your acceptance of this moment is total and complete. You accept things as they are, not as you wish they were in this moment. This is important to understand. You can wish for things in the future to be different, but in this moment, you have to accept things as they are. So good. So why do we have such a hard time accepting our breakup or accepting our divorce? I really think that first we need to be clear about what acceptance is and what acceptance is not. Now, Google states acceptance is the action of consenting to receive or undertake something offered. So when we think about this in terms of accepting reality or accepting your breakup/divorce, it really means we are consenting to receive the things that are outside of our control as they are being offered. Or in other words, another way that I like to put this in the breakup terms is I'm consenting to receive the ending or the completion of a relationship I thought was going to last forever. Or I'm consenting to receive the ending of a relationship that someone else no longer wants to be in. Which I find fascinating because when you think about it that way, it's like, of course it's difficult, right? That's almost even just a difficult sentence to swallow. But like I said, I want to also talk about what is not acceptance. Because I feel this is like a really important thing to look at in situations where there was perceived wrongdoing from your ex. Because this is where I see a lot of denial and resistance to your breakup happening. I want to be clear that acceptance of your breakup or your divorce is not condoning someone's poor behavior. We're not consenting to someone else's poor behavior. It's not taking on what they did as something you did wrong to cause it. So we're not taking on their actions and taking ownership or responsibility for their poor behavior, even if they think we should. Acceptance also does not mean acceptance of a future that is less than. I think oftentimes we get that confused. We believe that if I accept this less than present moment, it means I'm accepting a less than future, which is so not the case. When we accept the present moment as it is and we accept the past as it was, we make room for a different future. And let me say that again. When we accept the breakup in this present moment and we accept the relationship for what it was in the past, we make room for a bigger and better future, which includes a bigger and better relationship. So, here comes the question of why, right? Why should we accept our breakup? Why should I accept my divorce? And honestly, I thought about, what are the pros and cons of accepting versus not accepting my breakup? And what I'm seeing when my brave hearts work with me around this topic. Are you guys ready? When we don't accept the breakup or a divorce, here's what I see happen. 1, we are at the effect of the things outside of our control. What our ex does or doesn't do, right? He calls or he doesn't call. He decides that he wants to be in a relationship with me or he doesn't. When we're not accepting the breakup, I see a lot of, being at the effect of the things that are not within our own control. 2, we spend more time trying to control the things that are outside of our control to make us feel better. And this oftentimes is in the form of threats, and we're calling them boundaries. You must do this so that I can feel that. Versus if you do this, I will do that. Meaning, if you take this action or if you do this behavior, I choose to not be around this, or I choose to leave the room. We just did a whole workshop around boundaries and compassions recently inside of the Get Over Your Ex program. So I could go on and on about that, but I'm not going to spend too much time on this episode doing that. But like I just said, right, we're at the effect of the things outside of our control, and we spend a lot of time trying to control the things that we don't have control over, aka other people. We spend a lot of time in questions that never get answered, right? We're like, I don't know why he did this, or why did that why didn't he do this instead? I also noticed that when we're not accepting the breakup, we don't trust others and we don't trust ourselves, which is only a disservice to you. Also blaming. He did this and he did that. He's this and he's that. Almost like a lack of ownership. Not that I want you to take responsibility for your ex's poor behavior, but it's this whole idea that because he showed up like a shitty human, that means I have to have a shitty life. Like I'm at the effect of him. And I really want you to think about this. If you truly believe that thoughts, the sentences in your brain, create how you feel, feelings, which we're on episode 148. And if you started from the beginning, I'm assuming you believe that because you're still here. If you truly believe that thoughts create feelings and that your thoughts ultimately create all your results in your life, it wouldn't matter what the other human does. It wouldn't matter what the other humans do because you know your success and your amazing life isn't dependent on them. Their poor behavior doesn't create a poor life for you. The other thing that I see happen when we're not accepting the breakup is a lack of forward movement. It's almost like inaction because you're still talking about the past. And I did this for a long time. It was like I would take 2 steps forward and 1 step back because I just wouldn't let go of the past. And I kept carrying that story and bringing it along and showing people how terrible it was. But here's the cool part, you guys. So when I started looking at all of the pros and cons for each of these, when I started finding, what happens when we do accept the breakup or we do accept the divorce for what it was, when we accept our current reality of that situation, when we accept that past relationship for what it was, here's what I do see. I see that you feel better faster. You move into neutrality quicker and then calm. And you get to process the clean pain a lot quicker because you're not just unpiling and like digging through the dirty pain. And there's a whole episode on clean and dirty pain if you want to go back and listen to that. But if you're stuck on he's supposed to be honest, he should have done this, he should have told me sooner, or it wasn't supposed to be like this, it's going to take you forever to get to the place of, you know what? I'm just disappointed by his actions, and be able to just simply process that disappointment. That's clean pain. We want him to be honest, but he's a human being and we are all dishonest at some point, and we can be disappointed in that. Of course we're disappointed in that. And being able to process that disappointment instead of saying it should have gone different than it did. 2, the other thing that I see when we accept is you build a relationship with yourself faster. And it's a stronger one because you can prove to yourself that no matter what other people do, it doesn't determine your emotional well-being, nor does it determine who you are as a person or what's available to you in your future. And that, my friends, is a badass relationship with yourself. Another thing is I see that you create closure quicker. It's easier to rewrite your story when you see your writing in the first place. When you are observing the fact oh, I'm the one writing the story. When you're saying my story was supposed to go like this, but it went like that, you're also insinuating that you didn't write it at all and you can't rewrite it in your present or write out your future. It's the whole lack of control mentality and lack of healthy responsibility around the things you do have control, like your feelings, your actions, and behaviors and results. So when you do accept, you're also accepting accountability for your feelings, actions, and results in the present moment and your future. AKA, you're taking control of the things that we have control over instead of trying to control the things we don't have control over, your ex and his or her actions, right? The other thing I see is you get excited about your future faster. You're able to move through feeling your feelings and rewriting your breakup story, and then you move into doing thought work and healing around your limiting beliefs that you might have about your future. You've accepted the breakup and therefore you're like, okay, now what? And you begin to debunk the disempowering beliefs you have about your future, reducing the desire for your ex, which you guys have heard all about on this podcast, and then also getting excited about what's to come. Way more fun doing that work than constantly obsessing over what your ex did or didn't do. Way more fun. And lastly, you build the bigger and better life quicker. Action, 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 you guys. You're taking action. You're showing up. When you're in acceptance, you're not in this middle ground frozen in the inaction. What you wanted with your ex gets to be recreated, and you get to make it better this next time around. And you get there a hell of a lot faster when you find acceptance now. Ultimately, what I see when I look at the Bravehearts who are not accepting the breakup versus accepting the breakup is the longer you take to accept your breakup or your divorce, the longer it's going to take you to create the life that is bigger and better than the life your ex regrets leaving. Okay? So all of this, I hope I've sold you on why you want to create and cultivate acceptance in your breakup. But the real question is the how, right? Which you guys know me. I love giving you the how. How do I find acceptance in my breakup, especially if I've been resisting it for a long time, right? We're not going to shame ourselves about it. We didn't know different, and that's fine. Or we didn't know the how, and that's fine. I'm going to give it to you here today, and now you get to do it. First things first, you can always come join me inside of the Get Over Your Ex program, right? I will help you personally with creating acceptance, and it will change your entire breakup journey. But secondly, here's a very tangible, very common exercise I give inside of the Get Over Your Ex program when I see Bravehearts struggling with this concept. When I see them struggling with acceptance around what's happened, which by the way is very common and nothing to be ashamed of no matter your situation. So I'm going to list off some questions that you're going to have to journal through, and then I'm going to give you an example, okay? So number 1, how was everything supposed to be? How was the breakup supposed to go? How was the divorce supposed to happen? How would your mind have liked it to go? What would have been perfect for you? Really allow your mind to explain why. Like, we know that it wants it to be different, but what would have been perfect? What would have been ideal for you? 2, if everything went that ideal way, how would you be feeling and why? Why would you be feeling that way, right? Because thoughts, this optional sentences we have in our brain, create how we feel. So what thoughts would we be believing if that's how our circumstance was? If that's how the situation went, what would I be thinking that would be generating how I was feeling? And then number 4 is you have to understand what's actually keeping me from believing those optional thoughts now. What's keeping me from believing those beliefs and thoughts aren't available to me now? Okay? So here's an example. Let's walk through one together, okay? We're going to use one example so I can show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to just use a random previous client example, okay? This woman was in a 27-year marriage, and her partner broke up with her while she was pregnant and started openly dating someone a week later, okay? Pretty common example of mine. I feel like a lot of people I work with, this kind of thing happens. So how was everything supposed to be, right? How was this breakup supposed to happen? How was this divorce supposed to happen? How would your mind have liked it to go, right? So for her partner wasn't supposed to start openly dating someone right away, especially with a baby on the way, right? We're all like, heck no. It would have been nice if the partner would have waited at least a year, is what her mind said. She wished that her partner would have told her before they started fertility treatments and spent money on it and got pregnant, right? Cool. If you would have known this before all of this, that would have been better. She would have liked it if they had conversations about it first instead of it being so abrupt. Felt like it was her partner's decision and she didn't get a say. How many of you can relate to that? So the next question, right, is if everything went that way. So if everything went that way, the partner had a conversation with her about it before the fertility treatments and getting pregnant, and her partner didn't start dating someone until 1 year after the divorce, how would she be feeling and why? And what she said is, well, I'd be feeling like I tried everything I could. So then I'd be feeling complete. I'd be feeling like, my partner actually really did love me and care about me. so I'd be feeling cared for and special and taken care of. Maybe she also mentioned the relationship was real then. Like that would have meant the relationship was real. So she would feel validated. And it wasn't easy for her partner. Like she felt like, oh my God, in the beginning, she felt like it was just easy for her. But if the divorce went exactly the way she wanted it to, then she would have known it wasn't easy for him, right? It wasn't easy for him either. If he waited to move on for a year, and she'd feel validated and seen and not alone. So those are some of the things that she worked on around this. So then lastly, right, we have to understand what's keeping her from believing those beliefs and thoughts aren't available to her now. Who says you didn't try everything you could? In what ways did you try? And maybe in what ways are you even still trying? Who's to say you weren't really loved? Just because someone moves on quickly doesn't mean you weren't loved. Episode number 4, right? Who's to say the relationship wasn't real just because your partner left and began to date someone new? Who's to say it wasn't easy for them? Right? Or who's to say that it was easy for them? Even when your ex is acting like things are easy, I promise you it's not. Or even who's to say it's easy for them right now, even in a new relationship. Maybe that's why they moved on quickly, because it was so difficult. You don't know. And getting coached on these really is the secret and the key. Learning to question the beliefs that rebuttal your ability to believe these things and make these your truths now is where the mind-blowing moments live. And you guys, the crazy part to me is that I've heard it all. I've heard Braveheart saying, if my ex was kind, this would be easier. And then I hear Braveheart saying the complete opposite of, if my ex was just an asshole, this would be easier. But it doesn't matter what your situation is. Acceptance of that situation is the first step to getting to where you want to go faster. It's the beginning of all of the amazingness. And at the end of the day, Bravehearts, maybe you accept what is simply because it feels better. Arguing with your current reality, arguing with the fact that your breakup is here and it's happened, or the divorce is here and it's happened and how it happened, is really, really exhausting. But what I want you to know is that there are so many benefits to accepting your breakup and your divorce. I promise you. Accepting that someone chose to leave, accepting that someone chose to be dishonest, and knowing that you accepting that does not condone their behavior. It doesn't make it okay. It doesn't mean you're okay with it and that you'll accept that kind of behavior in the future. It simply states that you accept what's happened and you're finding out how it works in your favor. Because it's not your ex's behavior that determines how you feel, what you do in this life, or the results that you're going to create in your reality. Only you and your thoughts are going to dictate that. I am so proud of you, my Bravehearts. I love you so, so much. Let's go make the world a bigger and better place together, right? You got this, boo. I'll see you next week. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex and build a life bigger and better than the one you had with your ex, I would love to personally invite you to take this work deeper at breakupcoachdorothy.com/next steps.